Hi everyone, Scott here. It's Saturday, the 31st of May, and I am about to undergo an epic YouTube event. The long-anticipated and highly anticipated Razorwire video was put up online late last night, and I'm about to watch it. It is, of course, Luke's Ryan Chattaway 24-hour movie marathon video, and it's 3 hours long. He's been talking this up for quite a while. Apparently it took him like weeks just to shoot and edit the intro, all on its own, so I'm supremely excited about that. I thought that I would film it. I thought that I would film my attempt to watch this. I know it's going to be epic, and I don't even know if I can get all the way through it in one sitting, but we're going to find out. Just looking at this very first image here, what I did is I started playing the video and I paused it after like 1 second so I could, prepare myself, get ready, make sure I had snacks on hand, make sure that it was all ready to go. And I just see the first hint of a clip from James, aka DVD Collector 1974. Luke said that there would be cameos from other YouTubers, and I took that to mean that he was actually going to include clips of other people's YouTube videos, other people's marathon videos perhaps, in his video. And I see, here's James in his movie room. It's a footage from one of his videos, so I'm super excited to see what's going to happen here. So yeah, I thought I'd record my experience, and this is, of course, my experience watching, what you're watching now is my experience watching Luke's Ryan Chattaway 24-hour movie marathon video. I've just finished watching the 11-minute intro, and Luke went to some great lengths to make this thing, including pinpointing the exact point in a completely open field of grass to move from one portion to the other. He was somehow able to determine exactly where that was, despite the fact that there was nothing marking anything on the ground and the camera was like, way far away, back and forth across this one point. Very impressive, very impressive. Also, we have the theme from Rocky, which is an 8-bit, like an Atari game or something like that. And we have footage from his trip to America, which is totally cool. Yeah, so that's just the intro, man. I don't know what to expect with the rest of the marathon. Oh, and it would seem that footage of other YouTubers has actually been done especially for this video. He hasn't pulled it from other people's channels and said, here's a clip of somebody, here's a clip of somebody. No. He got some YouTubers to actually shoot footage for this completely epic video of his. So I'm going to continue on with Luke's Ryan Chattaway 24-hour movie marathon challenge marathon video. See you again in a little bit. 26 minutes and 45 seconds into Luke's video, and they are just now getting around to starting the first movie. Thought that intro was only 11 minutes long. Turns out it was quite a lot longer than that. I stopped it basically at the title, which says 3 days of movies, basically. So it's like not just one whole 24-hour marathon watch. It's like spread out over 3 days, which is a very reasonable thing to do, especially if you're jet lagged after having taken a vacation here in America, which is totally understandable. So far already we've got a rundown of the regulations and a couple of sneaks as to what they're going to be watching. They're starting off with Last Action Hero, but they mentioned probably seeing Zodiac at some point during the marathon, which is totally awesome, one of my favorite adventure films. Plus, we've had an Edgar Wright-like montage of breakfast preparation. We've had a montage of cute cat shots. We've had some quality references to Kill Bill and Back to the Future. And we even had some sepia-toned old footage of Luke in an amateur lightsaber battle with some friends, an old movie that he did apparently. If I'm not mistaken, he's wearing a t-shirt that says Reservoir Cats. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this so far, but I'm excited to finally get to the part where they actually start watching movies. You know how long it took me to start watching movies in my marathon video? About 10 seconds. Nothing against you, Luke. I really appreciate the effort you put into this. It's very enjoyable so far. And it's great that you have Connie also. That I think makes it a lot better if he's not just, if you're not just talking all by yourself like I am now, but you actually have someone to interact with in the video. That's top quality right there. So, they just got done reviewing Last Action Hero and about to start in on Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I had a couple of things I wanted to say about Last Action Hero. This was 21 years ago that the movie came out in the theater, just a couple weeks after Jurassic Park. And one of the reasons why it bombed is probably the fact that Jurassic Park was widely considered to be too scary for little kids, and so the kids got really excited about it and went back to see it over and over again. Whereas Last Action Hero has a kid in the movie constantly reminding everyone that they're watching a movie, which might have bored some people. I read about the movie and the concept, and I thought it was really exciting. I liked the whole meta aspect to it, especially that. But in practice, I found the movie to be pretty tedious. You know, I saw plenty of movies every summer, and some of them were pretty bad, and a few of them were good. And this was one of the bad ones for me that summer. Didn't compare with movies like The Fugitive and In the Line of Fire. Of course, it's supposed to be a comedy, but when they're always referencing, it's the same thing with Inglourious Bastards. They're constantly talking about movies during the movie. And that sort of brings me right out of it. You can't really get involved in the action. However, there is a distinct difference between the filmmaking that takes place within the film, Jack Slater 4, and the proper part of the movie, which supposedly takes place in the real world. Mercedes Ruehl, for example, plays the kid Danny's mom, and she's very good in the film, okay? And just the action, there's an action sequence that takes place in the real world towards the end, and that one's so much better filmed and better lit than the rest of the movie. So I gather that was unintentional, and I've read articles about just how many deliberate continuity errors and mistakes that they put into the film within a film, including that one Charles Dance stunt double, and the fact that a police car, when a building blows up, gets flipped in the air, but you can actually see the tube on camera, the air tube, the pressure tube that launches the car in the air. It's clearly visible. You have the guns and the helicopters that switch places from shot to shot. You know, you've got bullet holes that shouldn't be there when they didn't actually hit anything. All kinds of errors, and shaky camera work, bad camera work, all kinds of stuff like that. And that was probably one of the reasons why I didn't like it, because if you're going to spend, you know, $80 million or $70 million on a movie like this, I really want to see a good-looking movie, whereas this movie was intentionally bad for a large percentage of it. So I wasn't big on that. And also, it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. Really didn't work for me. I'm glad that these guys really enjoyed the comedic aspects of it, and some of it is enjoyable. And there's some good performances in it, but overall, no. Not a movie that I would watch over and over again, definitely. And they're about to start talking about Fantastic Mr. Fox, and that's a movie that I've seen as well, but just the one time, so I'm not going to review that one because I hardly remember anything about it. So, on with the marathon. I think we're about 37 minutes in right now. Luke, Connie, I'm disappointed in you. All that talk about washing the dishes, but not a scrap of footage of the actual event. I thought you guys were being thorough about this, huh? Anyway, skipped over Fantastic Mr. Fox. But I have seen that movie, enjoyed it, I guess. I don't really remember it as well. I haven't enjoyed as much as the other Wes Anderson movies. But then they moved on to one of Connie's favorites, Dirty Dancing. And I actually only saw this movie for the first time a couple of months ago. It was on cable, like Ovation or Lifetime or something like that, with commercial breaks and everything. And yeah, I didn't even watch the whole thing. I would skip, you know, to another channel occasionally, but I did pretty much watch it from beginning to end, mostly. Not, it doesn't really count, but yeah, I'd never seen it before. 87 was a year that I really enjoyed for movies. Wall Street and RoboCop came out that year. My favorite movie this summer was Inner Space. I went to see it 5 times. I loved it. Really enjoyed 87 a lot. Plus, you got classics like Predator and Lethal Weapon that came out that year, and the Best Picture winner was The Last Emperor, which I did eventually see at one point, but I really couldn't tell you that much about it because I just saw it just to kind of get it over with. So Dirty Dancing, I've actually seen the sequel more often than I have the original, if you could call it a sequel. It's a completely different set of characters. I think it's the late 60s, instead of the early 60s. It takes place in Cuba, and there's this rich white family that's down there, I guess for business. And the daughter, of course, is having her rebellious streak, and she wants to, she meets Diego Luna, who's local there. He's a dancer, and so they get into a dance competition together. That's a really good scene, the dance competition itself. The girl's played by Ramla Gary, who's an English actress. She's gorgeous, really. And the parents are played by Sela Ward and John Slattery, who's on Mad Men. And as it turns out, they talk about the fact that they used to dance when they were younger, and so they're actually encouraging her to dance, even though she's been trying to keep it a secret. Some good music in that movie, and it's been played frequently on cable, so I've seen it a number of times. Well, twice maybe, but you know, bits here and there. But mostly I just see it for the dancing. So Dirty Dancing, yeah, I saw it. Wouldn't say that it's a bad movie, but not something that I have ever been especially passionate about at any point in my life, including having actually seen it. So now we're moving on to another film, and we're about 56 minutes into the video. Still going strong, my energy is still high, still enthusiastic. Yeah, I think I can make it. I think I can. Okay, so we're 1 hour, 8 minutes and 30 seconds into the marathon video by Luke and Connie, and they're just about to start the classic Planet of the Apes from 1968. Prior to that, they watched a flop, which was the animated film Treasure Planet, and that was actually a movie that really intrigued me when I first saw the preview for it. There was a teaser which didn't really have any plot. It was just basically images from the movie, but it started off with this crescent moon, and this is probably the very first shot from the film itself, a crescent moon that you get closer to, and you see that there's actually like an entire city embedded into the crescent moon, and there's ships flying around, ships that look like ships for the water, but they're actually flying through the air, and it's like space. All of space has oxygen in it, so people just fly around these open-air ships from place to place. Of course, it's an adaptation of Treasure Island, but it's in space. There's all kinds of crazy creatures, but I've never actually seen the movie, so now I'm going to have to take a look at it, because they generally liked it. They said they found the difference in animation styles a bit confusing with the CG animation, three-dimensional CG animation, and hand-drawn animation. And I've seen a couple movies like that, like Iron Giant and Titan AE, and even Beauty and the Beast had a bit of CGI in it. Aladdin had CGI in it. So I'm not really sure what they mean when they found it confusing, but it looked intriguing to me. I never got around to seeing it. So the next film that they wanted to look at was a classic they hadn't seen, and they were actually looking at Coneheads for that. Coneheads only came out 21 years ago. I was 20 years old when that movie came out. That can't be a classic. It's too new. But they settled on Planet of the Apes from the 60s. And apparently they haven't seen this one, just the Tim Burton version, which is terrible, and Rise of Planet of the Apes, of course, which is very good. I first saw Planet of the Apes in 1998. Some friends of mine showed it to me, and there was a featurette on the cassette before the movie started. And you see the shot of the Statue of Liberty, and they're like, oh, I can't believe they showed that. They just totally gave it away. I'm like, gave what away? I didn't know anything that was happening there. And if I hadn't seen that image before watching the movie, I would have known that they had landed back on planet Earth in the distant future just for the fact that they're speaking English and are riding horses. I mean, honestly, that would not be on an alien planet, okay? They had to be on Earth, some other version of Earth, whatever. It's supposed to be a big surprise when it turns out, oh no, they're actually on Earth, not another planet. Earth, when the apes took over, but you know, I saw that coming from, you know, miles away, really. It just didn't make any sense to me that they would be on an alien planet. Not if they have English-speaking apes and horses, you know, doesn't make sense. Anyway, continuing on with the video. Okay, we're an hour and 19 minutes into the video. I'm having some breakfast right now, and can I just say, I love seeing Forkerball react to the Day 2 title card in the video before it actually pops up in the video. That's funny. So now I'm about 1 hour and 38 minutes into Luke and Connie's video on the Chattaway Marathon, and they just got finished, first of all, going out for some groceries, and they went to a local shop and they looked over some of the DVDs, which looked familiar, but they had different titles on it. One was called Frost, but looked a lot like Frozen. Another one was called Hobbiton, but it really looked like one of the Hobbit movies, especially since the actor that appears on the cover looks quite a lot like Martin Freeman in costume as Bilbo. Of course, actually, they're in Norway. They pay for things with kroner, apparently, just like in Sweden. I know that from the girl with the dragon tattoo. I always found it a little odd that neither Luke nor Connie seem to be from Norway. You know, Connie actually sounds like she's American. Maybe she isn't. I'm not really sure. I haven't asked. Just seeing those discs there with the strange spelling of the title. This is kind of cool. So they got their food, they came back and they watched It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which was their 3-hour movie. It was an extended version apparently, 3 hours and 3¼ hours. And I can just say right now, I would never, ever, ever want to see that movie. I saw the shorter version of this movie back when I was a kid. I guess it must have been like the 2 hour and 45-minute version. I cannot believe that they actually released this silly comedy in such a long length of time. And apparently they got every single comic actor that was working in Hollywood at the time to appear, at least for a few seconds, in this movie at some point. Because it's 2 hours and 45 minutes of people just going, you know, just constantly bickering at each other and yelling at each other and screaming and nagging each other as they're driving cross country to find this hidden cache of money. My brother and I, my brother watched it with me, and he said, you know, the only funny part of this whole movie we thought was the part in the very beginning where a character literally kicks the bucket as he dies. His foot moves and he kicks a bucket down a hill. That was like the best part. And the opening titles were funny too. The rest of it though was terrible, at least as far as we're concerned. He and I were concerned. I think, well, I don't know, I haven't talked about it in a while, but I certainly thought that it was quite a slog, quite a bore. And I know my mom did too. And probably the primary reason for this was the mother-in-law character. One of the main characters in the film is a couple, and the mother-in-law, I guess the wife's mom, is along for the ride. And she is constantly nagging them and constantly nagging everyone else. And just the stereotypical unpleasant mother-in-law. And, you know, this is, imagine 3 hours of that. 3 hours you're sitting watching these people, you know, bicker at each other. Never, ever, ever want to see that movie again, even if it is in CineRam, which is very impressive. I think that and Ben-Hur, or the, yeah, okay, I got you, it's a text, I got a text. Anyway, they're continuing on with the next movie, so I will check in later. So, now I'm about an hour and 53 minutes into the video. My energy is starting to wane. I'm not feeling quite as energetic as I did. It's been a long go of it. Just got finished, Luke and Connie just got finished watching 2 movies. One which I haven't seen, and that's the silent classic from 1924 called Sherlock Jr. With Buster Keaton, and they were very, very impressed by that. So I'll have to take a look at that. Maybe I'll do a marathon of movies that other guys have watched in their marathons that I haven't seen yet. I don't know. So Treasure Planet and Sherlock Jr. will go on that. And then after that they watched the Italian film Cinema Paradiso, which I have seen but remember almost nothing about, except for the priest sitting in the auditorium by himself, ringing the bell whenever he wants the projectionist to cut out something from the movie, because the Catholic Church apparently was funding the theater, and so they got to say whether or not a film should be censored or not. I do remember the end from that film though, and that was quite memorable. But the kid, I don't remember anything about him or any of the plots in the movie, other than the fact that it took place in the theater. You had a projectionist who had to cut out bits from films when the priest said so. That's all I remember from it. So now we're moving on to the next movie that they're doing, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, Back to the Future. Luke and Connie just got done watching Back to the Future. Of course, it's a favorite movie of Luke's and of mine. I was 12 years old when it came out. I think that was the movie that I really sort of recognized what the writer did, because the writer sat down and figured out how the story and how the plot and the traveling through time and how the events affect each other worked prior to anybody shooting anything. I was like, ooh, that was a very well-planned movie. And of course, you know, everything about it is really great. And of course, when they were done talking about the movie, they talked about where would you go, what period would you go to if you could travel in time. And I, like Connie, I would like to go forward in time to see how technology is advanced. Also, avoid the hype on certain upcoming movie series and just pick up the discs and bring them all back and just watch them all in one big marathon and not have to, you know, wait for months and years to see some of this stuff. Yeah, you know, if I were to go back in time, it wouldn't be to like, I would probably either try and save someone's life or stop someone from becoming president of the United States who maybe wasn't healthy for the country and the world in general. Of course, how to do that and be credible, that's a bit of a challenge. So they're moving on to the next film right now, and they've taken care of all of their criteria. They actually, Luke actually went back and looked at the original challenge rules and adopted some of those extra rules, like how I did with December. But they got all that done with apparently now, and we're just over 2 hours into the 3-hour marathon. We have basically 1 full hour left to go. They're about to choose their next movie, and since they've already polished off 9 movies, I don't know what they're going to do. Apparently this is going to go 3 days, so this is going to be another day, another 12 hours of them watching movies. I have no idea. We'll see. Fresh batteries for my camera. And I'm 2 hours and 15 minutes into Luke and Connie's marathon video, and they've just finished their 9th movie, and they're going to be doing more movies on the 3rd day, because they're actually doing 24 hours of movie watching rather than just watching movies for 24 hours and taking breaks. They're not counting their break time, only counting the running times in the movies. And I was originally planning on doing that. But for my first marathon, it would have lasted like 27 or 28 hours rather than 24 because of the breaks I was taking. I ended up taking about 3 hours worth of breaks once I figured it out afterwards. But these guys are not doing it. They are doing a full 24 hours of movie watching, which is why they're stretching it out over 3 days. Although they've satisfied all the criteria, they're still doing more. They just finished watching Surrogates, which is about people in the future that are strapping themselves into pods in their homes and remote controlling robot replicas of themselves to go out and work and do shopping and go to clubs and things like that. When I first saw this movie, I thought, how could they possibly afford to do this? I mean, it would seem like only the richest people could afford to use a surrogate, but it seems like almost everybody is doing it except for the poorest people or the people who are just flat out rejecting surrogate use. One character basically ends up using multiple surrogates, so it's like you see multiple characters doing stuff and it's actually just one character. And then one of the main characters actually gets killed about halfway through the movie, but someone then takes over that person's surrogate and pretends to be them. So it's kind of like a reverse of Mystique, where you've got multiple actors playing the same character in disguise. But in this case, you've got maybe multiple different people. A single actor is playing multiple people depending on who's controlling the surrogate. That's kind of cool. I'm not a huge fan of the movie, actually. It's directed by Jonathan Mostow, who did Terminator 3 and U-571 and the Kurt Russell movie Breakdown. It's okay, not great or anything like that. It's fine. Mostly it's just a problem of credibility. I found a lot of it to be not believable, and I don't have a problem, accepting a lot of science fiction concepts, but this one's a bit problematic for me. So I'm not a big fan of that movie. So now I'm moving on. It's about 45 to 50 minutes left to go in the marathon video. Razorwire's Ryan Chattaway 24-hour movie marathon challenge marathon video. It's so long. I don't think I can take anymore. It just goes on and on and on. My butt's very numb right now. I've been sitting and watching this video for so long. I need water. I need food. I need Skittles. By the way, this is a totally awesome movie. One of my favorites from 2004. It was directed by Mike Nichols, who did The Graduate and Carnal Knowledge. Clive Owen and Natalie Portman were both nominated for Academy Awards for this movie. I don't think I'm gonna make it through the whole thing. Okay, 2 hours and 35 minutes into Luke's Ryan Chattaway 24-hour movie marathon challenge marathon video. Luke and Connie just finished watching Citizen Kane, the classic film from 1941, the directorial debut of Orson Welles. What Wells meant at the end of the movie about the actors who had never appeared in the movie before is that they actually were performers. They were actors, but only on radio. He was running the Mercury Theater, and he had his radio program, and Citizen Kane was his first feature film, meaning that was the first time that a lot of the players that he had in his troupe appeared on screen, actually. People might have seen them live on the stage or heard them on the radio, but seeing them on a screen, that was the first time. That's what he meant by that. Yeah, the cinematic technique in the movie is pretty cool. I actually just rewatched this movie a few months ago. And I do like it. It isn't the most compelling movie for me, anyway, just because it's, you know, old-fashioned in its style. Just can't help but be old-fashioned in some ways. You know, even when I was a kid, of course, I didn't really like older films that much unless they were Hitchcock suspense movies, just because the style of shooting and editing was so rigid and kind of dull, whereas, you know, movies from the 80s were a lot more dynamic. And of course, special effects were a lot better then as well. But Citizen Kane's a pretty impressive movie, and it's an impressive accomplishment from a guy who obviously has a lot going on upstairs when it comes to, you know, just the kind of stuff that he's able to pull off. He didn't, he might have done rewrites on the script, but it was credited to a writer named Herman Mankiewicz, and there's actually a made-for-cable movie called RKO 281 about Wells and Mankiewicz and the making of Citizen Kane. Leo Schreiber played Wells in the film, and it's supposed to be inspired by the life of William Randolph Hearst, the publisher, the publishing tycoon from that time period, who, after he learned of the film and learned what it was about, refused advertising space on any of the newspapers or radio stations that he owned. And so that's why Citizen Kane wasn't a success at the time, is because he couldn't get it advertised in a lot of different markets. Hearst owned a whole bunch of that stuff, and so he was able to squeeze Wells and the studio out of places to advertise. So without advertising, less people were aware of the movie, and so it wasn't a big success. As for Rosebud, of course the movie does offer an explanation as to what Rosebud was, but of course the other explanation, possibly, for what Rosebud is that Hearst was in a relationship with a young actress who he wanted to have her appear in dramatic parts, even though her forte was comedy. It's one of the subplots in Wells' film is about how the singer that he has a relationship with, he wants to make her an opera star, but she's not well suited to opera. She's better at a different kind of singing. But the term Rosebud could possibly be a reference to a certain body part of the real woman who Hearst was involved with. That would be another explanation of what Rosebud really means. Of course, they couldn't talk about that in the actual movie itself. This is 1941. They had pretty tough standards and content like that. But it's one theory. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I've had it on disc for a while, and I don't know that I've looked at the special features on it, if there are any. I'm sure there are, but I just haven't bothered with it. The movie itself is quite compelling as it is, and the style of it is pretty cool. So they're about to get started on another movie, so I shall continue on. I hope I can make it. My energy is at a low ebb right now. It's so long. It's so long. The game's up. There are no more bullets left in your gun. Even if you were right, that would be 1 + 1 + 2 + 1, not 1 + 2 + 1 + 1. Clue is the last movie that Connie and Luke watched from the 80s, the Ensemble comedy based on the board game. When I first watched this movie, I had no idea who anyone was except for Christopher Lloyd and Martin Mull. Christopher Lloyd I knew, of course, from Back to the Future. Martin Mull I knew from Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton. He played Terry Garr's boss. None of the other people that I knew. Madeline Kahn as Mrs. White. Who is Mrs. Peacock? I'm not sure I ever knew her name. Colleen Camp as the maid. Colette. Tim Curry as the butler. Wadsworth. Michael McKean as Mr. Green. And, of course, the vixen of the group, Miss Scarlet, was played by Leslie Ann Warren. The movie has 3 endings. my favorite ending is the first one. If you're watching them in order as they appear on the video, they usually have culprit 1, culprit 2, culprit 3, you know, the endings that way. And the last one might make the most sense or be the most fair, I don't know, but the first one is the funniest. It has the best ending, the best line. 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 is... Yeah, that's a good ending right there. Anyway, yeah, it's a fun movie. A little pretty silly, you know, and lots of dog poop jokes in the very beginning. You know, they just won't let that one go. I hear that's the problem with A Million Ways to Die in the West. Jokes just like reused over and over and over again. Also a problem I had with Dewey Cox. That movie was terrible. But yeah, it was a fun movie. A old favorite from when I was a kid. It would be on cable a lot, so I'd see it frequently along with View to a Kill, Moore's last Bond film. I like that one too. Christopher Walken might have been good in this cast somewhere. I'm not sure which part he would have played. Maybe the Christopher Walken part, I don't know. Or maybe could have been Wadsworth. But, you know, Tim Curry is definitely priceless as Wadsworth. Probably, no, I'm quite sure it's the first movie that I saw him in. And a lot of kids that I knew were fond of him. Fond of him primarily because of that movie. They had never seen Rocky Horror, of course. So the last movie that Connie and Luke are watching is another Buster Keaton movie, Steamboat Bill Jr., another one which I haven't seen. What do you know? There's 20 minutes left in this video right here. 20 minutes. Boy, this has been an adventure. So I'm going to listen to them, what they think of the Buster Keaton film, and then I guess there's going to be some kind of wrap-up, an outro of some kind. So yeah, so I'll get back to you on that, let you know what's happening. 2 hours, 56 minutes, 39 seconds. Thank you very much, Luke. Thank you. I'll send you my address so you can send me my medal. He said I deserved a medal or a certificate for making it this far in the video. Anyway, I've just spent the last, like, 5 minutes listening to the two of them argue and Connie attempt to pour water on his head. This has been, like, the best part of the whole thing. And she keeps saying, "You're not going to keep this part in." And he's like, "Yes, I am. Yes, he did. He did keep it in." But there's a few minutes left. They're about to watch one more movie. And even though they only have about an hour left in the actual, as far as their obligation goes, they're going to watch a movie that's 2 hours and 45 minutes long, The Dark Knight Rises. Wouldn't have been my first pick. I would have picked Powakatsi or Koyaanisqatsi, although Luke already just watched those just because, you know, I mean, because he reviewed the Blu-rays recently. So I gather he didn't want to watch one of those, and maybe Connie wouldn't like those, I don't know. But I would have picked something, you know, like less than 90 minutes, you know, there's plenty of those out there. But yeah, they're going to tackle The Dark Knight Rises for their last movie. I like that movie very much. Yeah, leaves me wanting quite a bit. But there's still about 8 minutes left. Yes, no, yes. 6 minutes left in the actual video. What's going to happen next? I have no idea. Let's find out, huh? Okay, so they haven't started the movie yet. They're arguing over how to pronounce her last name and how to actually end the video. And I think he's saying something like, we care about this part, but no one else does. Well, you know, I'm still watching, so obviously I care. Sorry, that last part was rather... unsympathetic and curt, and I apologize. You guys are totally awesome. This video has, like, rocked my world and stuff. But it needs to end, like, soon, okay? So I've just finished. I don't remember what time I started, but it was more than 3 hours ago. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. There was a lot there aside from just talking about movies and the usual stuff. Really appreciate all the extra time and effort Luke put in this video, and Connie too, for being a good sport about going through it all. It's definitely one of the livelier videos I've seen, despite its length. Yeah, really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to Ryan's video, of course. Ryan did a video as well, a marathon. Haven't seen it yet, he hasn't put it up yet, so But it was cool seeing the various people I know from YouTube in the video as well at certain points. Yeah, good stuff, fun stuff. So yeah, there is my review of a video of a marathon. No, it's my review of a marathon video of a marathon. Right, that's what I meant. So thank you very much for watching my video on Razorwire's Ryan Chattaway 24-hour movie marathon challenge marathon video. I think that makes sense.